So I want you to look at this picture. This is to symbolically sort of represent or trying to sort of convey the concept of infinite awareness that is your true nature of being. So on the left side you see in red infinite awareness, and an arrow is pointing at a couple of things that you could call the labels of your current physical, finite self. So you have your race, gender, country, job, wealth, health, relationships, social status, and on it could pretty much go there. There's so many different labels, stuff that are all basically piled on top of infinite awareness itself. So infinite awareness is obscured by focusing its awareness on finite things. So what we're getting at here is becoming aware of who is actually aware, of what is actually aware of all these labels with which you have identified yourself for the most part of your physical existence. Most people, they only know themselves as these labels, but they don't really know what is aware of these labels. So in other words, they're not really aware of their own awareness, of that very awareness that is observing and perceiving these labels and experiencing them. So this is why it can be very powerful to become aware of your own awareness, to become aware that there is, you could say, infinite awareness itself that we all share as human beings, and pretty much as everything that you actually can even observe around you. It all shares the same awareness. But the awareness in a human being is extra interesting because it's capable of being aware of its own awareness. So that being aware of your own awareness is actually experiencing, or you could say, being aware of infinite awareness itself. So I know at first it might seem a little strange, a little tricky to grasp what we're getting at here. So let's change the picture around. Now, how do you become aware of your own infinite awareness? Or that there is such a thing? Well, in this picture you see something new that is added to it on the left side in orange. In order to become aware of its own infinite awareness, reverse the attention of your awareness. So in other words, you're in the habit of being completely focused upon the things that you observe, usually physically speaking. Basically, you're completely focused and have your attention fully invested in finite things and how things are and the labels and the identity you think you have currently as a so-called individual, as a separate self that is observing the universe, literally. So in order to become aware that there's actually infinite awareness behind these labels, behind all these things of your life, you're going to have to reverse, so to speak, the attention of your awareness. So you basically stop placing your attention exclusively on the physical world and the labels of the physical, finite world and mind, and simply rest in your own awareness. Become aware that you're aware. And then you start asking questions about it in order to develop more insights concerning this very awareness that you actually are. So that would lead into the next picture. We then can ask questions to ourselves. What is awareness? Or as Robert Spira would say, am I aware? Is awareness limited? Now this is very fascinating because these questions actually subconsciously or unconsciously started to occur within my own consciousness itself, but I never really understood the drastic effects that it actually has on what it can do for you throughout this life journey. So through the work of Robert Spira, for example, I read it in his books. One of the questions, am I aware? What is awareness? Etc. The self-inquiry, as he would say. I thought that was really beautiful because I recognized I was already doing this, but I never actually had a book or even a video at that time in my life in the past where I was aware of what this actually implies. So to him, he would say these are sacred questions, and they take you away from the temporary separate self. They're taking your attention away from all the finite things of your life, because usually that's where our consciousness is mostly focused upon. But by this question, you actually symbolically sort of turn around back into your own awareness and consciousness itself to figure out, what is this? What is this? What is consciousness? Am I aware? What is awareness? And you start to experience your own inner being, nature, the fact that you have a being nature, a beingness to you that is completely untouched by any of these labels and events of the material world itself, you could say. Because that's what you're gonna get for yourself. That's what you're going to discover, this experience. So ultimately, this next picture here is absolutely fascinating to me. As first of all, I have to explain something here. These 3 black balls on the screen with the words creator, creative process, creations, they came from a book called Busting Loose from the Money Game. So that's kind of a funny title, but it's basically about how people could, if they want, get rich, if that's their goal. But it deals with the metaphysical aspects of life. Now I added a few words here to hopefully convey even more specifically what these 3 black balls are all about. So you have creator. That could be described as infinite awareness itself. Now the creative process in us happens through the activity of imagination, which creates visions, through the thoughts, which create ideas within ourselves, and through the feelings which inspire us to go there somewhere, to do something, to create something, which ultimately leads into creations, which can also be called manifestation or the results of your life. This is absolutely powerful if you realize that we're talking about you here in this picture as well. That is you. But can you see where you tend to be for the most part of your awareness? Your awareness is usually focused purely on the creations itself, and perhaps we're sort of aware of our thoughts, feelings, and maybe some vague dreams that have formed themselves through the imagination. But we're not really aware that these activities take place because of the infinite awareness, the actual true beingness of yourself that is behind all of these activities then, again as well. So these activities of imagination, thoughts, feelings, they happen, so to speak, on the screen of infinite awareness itself. I know this doesn't perhaps make a lot of sense instantly when you hear it, but it's absolutely powerful to know that behind all these activities that you experience inwardly is still this infinite awareness that you actually truly are. But currently you have taken upon yourself a identity of a finite temporary self, of a separate self. That's again what we try to convey in this very first picture on the video. If we go back to it just for fun, again you see on the left side infinite awareness, but it is obscured by all these labels and things that we observe in the material world. So really try and become aware of your own awareness, of the fact that you're simply aware of all these things, but you're none of them. Because that's where you will find your freedom. That's where you start to feel greater and better and more happy and joyous and more in tune with literally the infinite itself. Even though we can never comprehend the infinite as a finite being right now, because again it's infinite, so you cannot even comprehend it, like literally speaking. But the idea is to at least become aware that that is your true nature, that is actually the real being that you are, behind all those labels that you have currently put on top of that awareness. So you reverse your awareness by asking questions and sensing within yourself the answer to them. Because by doing so, you override that old way of finite, focused awareness, and you open your mind towards infinity, you might as well say. Awareness is the core, and then awareness, as Robert would say, starts vibrating into manifestation. And awareness suddenly says, I am Renil in this case. You can do that for yourself, for your name. Awareness started moving into manifestation and now has taken upon itself the identity that you think you are. But that is layered on top of the infinite awareness that you truly are. So awareness is not something you actually find. It is what you always were. But you got so hypnotized by a physical separate self, you completely lost track of who you really were. And it is this journey that is described in all religions as man's journey to find God. But in reality, you don't find God anywhere other than your own pure awareness of being, without form or labels. That is behind the manifestations of the material world. It is all a form of the same formless awareness. So by establishing that, in this case Renil is the finite version of the infinite awareness, you slowly get at the heart of the mystery of life. If one can make that a living reality, something they can truly feel, well then they will be happy. In doing all this, your self-image essentially would shift. You no longer have a self-image of a finite, limited human being, but you merge with the self-image of infinite awareness itself that knows all is part of the same substance. So again, it is in reality like a game that infinite awareness of the universe is playing. It desires to give expression to its own fullness and glory, and causes manifestation to occur, through which temporarily finite selves and things can experience the substance out of which the universe was made all along. It is at first the hardest, it seems, but ultimately the most beautiful thing to sense. All is from the same substance. But the finite self can never see it truly in that way. From its point of view, everything is separated and individual things. So it becomes interesting to ask ourselves how to close the gap between people who died, or in the case of distance in a relationship. It is by again finding the source of all life, awareness, and in that awareness is peace, happiness, joy, bliss, the fulfillment of your longing for people that are not physically here. And in that fulfillment you quite literally feel in tune with them, because they too were part of that same awareness from which you came. And one who can establish themselves firmly in that nature of awareness will be guided by, you could say, the infinite intelligence of that universal awareness towards the realization of any goal. So all you have to do is let go. And in that letting go of your own labels, of the finite self, there will be a death involved, which is terrifying to the ego. Because what we need to do is to die before we physically die. We sacrifice our separate self so that we may know God. All you have to do is let go. Do you understand that? In the Bible there's a lot of talk about sacrificing people or things, and God said that it was never his command that they should do these horrible things. Because people thought sacrifice meant to literally do certain things. But we are talking about the more subtle things we sacrifice, like literally the separate self-identity. The idea that there is even a finite, limited version of us. The more we believe that that is true, the more that is our experience. The more we let go of it, the more consciousness and awareness can expand within us freely. Now, there's also a fear of abandonment that is innate in humans, but that is because they have forgotten that thou art ever with me, and all that I have is yours. So by remembering the true nature of who you are, you find the home of all of creation, and then nothing can ever be abandoned or lost. This is also not something you think about. It is something to simply be aware of. It is not a thought to know, unity like a thought. You keep thinking obsessively, and if you let go, you lose it. So you simply go back to the start of it all. Self-inquiry is the gateway. First you ask a question, and then you inwardly notice what awareness is doing in response. And then one day you find out, if I don't ask questions, and if I still my mind, then awareness is simply aware, and in total peace.